If you're like me, and I think many of you are, it is really hard to part with any scraps of specialty paper. So today I want to share some tips with you about how to make the most of specialty paper and not leave anything to waste. Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have some specialty paper. This is the Holographic Mirror Paper by Scrapbook.com. And if you're seeing this when I first release it, there is a deal going on for the paper, so I'll link to that. But if you're seeing it some other time, it is a really pretty paper pack and some nice mirror cardstock. It has that sort of rainbow look when it catches the light, and some of the papers are a little bit more reflective than others. Particularly the gold. I'm trying to angle it such that like you're not just seeing the reflection of my room, but can kind of appreciate a little bit how pretty this paper is. But these ideas work for whatever specialty paper you have. So when I go to cut this specialty paper for my card idea, I thought, oh, this star paper is really pretty, and I want to cut some stars from it. I have a set of layering stars from scrapbook.com as well. And if I start putting these stars down onto the paper, I can only cut about 3, maybe 4 full-size stars from this piece before I'm done and no more full-size stars fit. Now you can get the bigger pad because this does come in 2 sizes, but even still, eventually you just get to the point where you have, as you could see here, there'd be a large chunk of paper, but not enough to cut a complete star. However, for my card idea, I didn't need all of the stars to be complete stars. I have many of the stars hanging off the paper, and so I just intentionally cut stars that weren't complete from my paper. So here's an example with the gold cardstock. For this one, I knew that little bit was just going to be not complete. That's fine. I then cut the black mats 1 size larger, which is why I picked a layering die. And so as you can see, I still glued them onto their mat the same way I normally would, even though they're only partial bits. And that's just so that when I start layering things onto my card, I kind of have an idea of where I need to stop. Now, of course, you could also try to cut these black mats in an incomplete way, but I found that to be much more difficult, and I'm okay with maybe not getting the most out of my solid black cardstock that I buy in bulk, but really getting the most out of my fancy metallic and glitter and any of those really kind of specialty papers. So for my card, when I'm doing something like this, I am going to start with my full-size stars because I still had some full-size stars. I'm making a second card because I cut 2 pieces and I wanted enough for 2 cards, so I cut 2 high words, 1 from each piece. And then I'm going to arrange my full-size stars so I get a good use of them, and then pick out like which of these are pretty large or maybe difficult to work with, spread around the colors. This one has quite a bit. It's almost a complete star, so maybe I could make it such that I get almost the effect of having the large star, even though like I'll try to get almost all of it onto the paper, and just kind of fiddle with these until I find the perfect arrangement. Now that's kind of cutting off quite a bit of that star, so maybe I scooch it all down because I have those full-size stars. I don't want to cut them as, I want to try to preserve as much of the full size as possible. Think about where does my high have to go into relation to this, maybe this. And I don't want to, spend a whole bunch of time fiddling it with it on camera, but I just kind of want to show you where that thought process is in terms of just intentionally starting with these partial pieces and still being able to get a look as if I had cut everything as a complete piece and making the most of these scraps. Of course, if these were complete stars, what I would do is as I cut them off of the sides is I would just be saving these pieces and then using them on a future card. But the reason that I was trying to, come up with this design, or I was, using this design, was because I knew I was going to have all of these partial pieces. So I want to show you my next thought. I would keep just trimming around and I would have that complete card. My next thought about, okay, so I cut all of these stars out, and it's a little bit different in this particular scenario because I had cut the word high out of this section and then I trimmed it out. So I have this little bit of a weird gap, and you can see it a little better here on the silver, which I will use to demonstrate my card idea. And then this star, when I cut this, there were two little pieces that were like little triangles that we would use to complete the panel. So you'd want to save those if you were doing something like this. But when you've die cut these shapes out, what can you do with what's left over? I've heard suggestions about cutting confetti, cutting other little small things out of it. You could cut a bunch of hearts, you could hole punch a bunch of circles and make a shaker card. But I was like, it's a pretty big piece in some ways. So I glued it to some black cardstock, and I'm just going to use it to make a background. So rather than just getting little tiny things out of it, I'm going to get a whole card background out of it. But I have that awkward gap from where I had cut the word high. So I'm going to need to cover that. And that's going to lead me to my other thought about how you can make the most of your specialty cardstocks. And that is here, I really wanted to focus on the specialty cardstock, layer them together. So I mixed the star paper with this one it was like sort of a glitter look. And I wanted to just kind of mimic the black matte that I had used, so using the black with the silver on top, black with the silver on top again. But I don't want to waste anything, so I'm not going to cut this hello out of some other piece of paper. I'm going to cut it directly from where I'm going to cover it up in a moment. And you can do this with all kinds of scraps. And if you're ever using a large chunk of your specialty paper, but you're going to cover even some portion of it, can you cut a word die out of it? Can you cut a small shape out of it? And then just cover that up. So I cut the word hello out. And in this instance, if I were to glue this hello directly down, I might have some trouble with it adhering because the spot that I wanted to adhere it to is mostly hollow. So what I'm going to do is instead just take a scrap of white cardstock and die cut the word hello out of it. And I don't even have to do a good job of cutting that or anything. Sometimes with specialty cardstock, I do find it a little bit more difficult to adhere. I find myself needing a stronger adhesive. Sometimes liquid glue does a little bit better of a job, but if you feel like that's something that you have trouble with, just know that it's not just you, and an adhesive that works great on cardstock may not work because in a piece of specialty paper is more likely to have some plastic in it, like the plastic glitter or this plastic sort of mylar material. So that's why the adhesive is not working the same as it would on cardstock, which is obviously a different kind of material. So we're going to fit that hello word in here, and I'm not even going to bother to take these out or anything like that. None of that matters, and just do like an inlaid die cutting, but with this scrap of white cardstock. I mean, literally any color. This is a great use of scraps. And then this actually will adhere really well. I don't have to worry about the cardstock gluing itself to this plastic specialty cardstock. I instead am basically going to be gluing it to the white cardstock instead. And then that shouldn't be difficult at all. And then I can adhere all this down to a card base. You can put something heavy on top of it. Stamp blocks, paperweight, whatever you got. Okay, so those are my thoughts about how a couple ways I might use specialty cardstock to really maximize it. Please leave any of your tips in the video description below, as we would all love to hear how to get the most out of these. And while they can be pretty pricey, like I said, there is a good deal on this particular paper pad if you're watching this video when it comes out, and scrapbook.com is always running deals, so it's certainly worth checking out. If you like this video, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial. And check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.